Hello my friends and welcome back. It's episode 111. Right, let us continue to do stuff. Alright, terrible news. The Vigilant Servants have discovered an abscess of treachery on our capital world, one that's grown far too large and could rupture at any moment. Informants report the group known as the Foreman clan actually cover for a horrendous cult of genetic degenerates who currently have their people in every echelon of the hive. They are traitors to the purity of humanity, traitors to the creed, rebels and heretics. What exactly do my people find out? One tenacious clerk from the administratum had questioned the authenticity of reports coming from the ruins of Siphony. He personally attended the debris removal and entered the lower levels of the fallen hive. There he discovered the signs that proved Siphony to be infected by the gene plague. Thousands of corpses of the extra-armed degenerates had been buried in a mass grave. He also found the remains of the Achilles Scalalander's people. Seems they had noticed the signs of the corruption. The traitors, aiming to cover up their crimes, buried their misdeeds under the ruins of the hive. On the way back, the clerk's transport was destroyed, but he miraculously managed to survive. Now the heretics think that they have covered their tracks once more, so they continue to plot, oblivious and unprepared. A horrendous distortion of human image. It says that they spread their poison by biting and enslaving the victims. Some of them are indistinguishable from normal humans, while others are disgustingly ugly. The heretics hide them from prying eyes. They seem to be connected by a common consciousness and are absolutely loyal to the despicable cult. The astropathic choir master of Dargonus has suggested the cult may be behind the extermination of psychers on the planet. You can sense the ghost of a powerful consciousness of some sort. Wow, it's Gene Stealer infestation, man. The astropaths we have forced to serve on Dargonus are afraid. They do not wish to become a living shield if the enemy launches another psi assault at us. I pray that this line in our defense is quite fragile. Indeed, they probably started to recruit the workers. It's easy to blend in with the labouring riffraff. Disguising themselves as technomats, they gain cover for their secret operations and infiltration into the upper echelons of power. Each crisis has allowed them to gain our trust and receive our resources. Most despicable of all is they have corrupted our beliefs as well. They revere the God Emperor in the image of a form-armed abomination. Their prayers are full of hatred towards those in power and promises of reckoning when their dreadful deity will come and equate them with their oppressors. With us, that is. Many fools and troublemakers have fallen for their lies. By letting them infiltrate the other hives, we have allowed them to spread like a pandemic. Now the cells of their cult are everywhere. When your lordship had stood up for the minor cults, they received a golden opportunity to recruit more openly to their ranks, which is now brimming with fools who have yet to realize they are partaking in a heretical conspiracy. They are called Gene Stealers! Wow, he just went out and said it. They are not simple mutants. They are a Xenos plague that breed inside the human brain, forever distorting their genetic makeup and enslaving them to the brood. This is a much more threatening than the Dukari fleet that had ravaged the capital earlier. If they are on Dargonus, then they will try to overtake the entire planet sooner or later. Messengers of the Great Devourer, a race can sense the shapeshifters, but you should stay vigilant. Ellen Tark, for a race with such a weak psyche as the monkey, their appearance can prove deadly. Heretics mostly consist of workers, but some have infiltrated the Guard as well. Their weapons are primarily made by repurposing industrial machinery. Cultists are fearless and will readily sacrifice themselves for the sake of their common goal. But the worst part is their psychic threat. We cannot even begin to gauge it. Some of the engine vandals could be infected by this plague, but most of them are likely to come to our aid. They too are used to eating out of your lordship's hand to bite it. Absolutely right, it's impossible to negotiate with the degenerates. Our only option is to completely annihilate them. We should start from the top. Should we attack decisively and quickly, or should we expose ourselves by bringing our heavy weapons to the capital and gain an advantage in firepower, to quietly eliminate their leaders, or to hit the infected territories, or cleanse them of traitors? Edmund, raise the people to battle and publicly proclaim war. Tell the people that heretics are hiding amongst them and millions of loyal subjects will grind the thousands of traitors to dust. May Dargonus cleanse itself of this filth. Cleansing should be thorough. Ever since the Xenos scum attacked your world, the rakes of down ships float everywhere in orbit. Connect them with your ships and send them flying towards the nests of this spawn trying to encroach on your domain. Since all of them are linked by a common will, we could start by launching our attack there. If the astropathic choir could drown out the voice of the brood, we could be able to launch a sudden strike or act quickly enough before the enemy could restore cohesion and alert forces to the assault. Prepare a plan for a psychic attack. After that, we shall launch a surprise assault. We should make this quick and quiet. You should get rid of the leaders first. Let's go with the psychic attack. I think that's the best way to handle Gene Stealers. I shall send the Inquisition directives developed specifically for this scenario to Dargonus. At the appointed time, the Enforcers started their simultaneous raids on all the hives in the capital. Relying on stealth and surprise, they did not use the heavy machinery. At the same time, the Astropathic Choir launched a truly devastating attack on the grim psychic shadow hanging above the hive of Dargonus. This attack stunned the brood of heretics and temporarily cut off their psychic communication. The heretics did not go down without a fight. Soon an enraged outcry of psi energy from the brood swept through and above the hives, plunging the brave warriors into horror or bloody insanity. The Astropathic Choir had managed to drown it out with their menacing chants, but this was a test of wills, and only the most disciplined and steadfast psychers withstood its sheer force. The element of surprise facilitated swift extermination of the cult leaders, leading to the rest of the heretics to lose heart. And the filthy shrines of the heretics were set ablaze. The only thing made by the Road Traeger's servants feel a sense of unease. Inside the cult's main temple, they found a hatchery for some grotesquely enormous monster. It was empty. They did not find the beast. If the Emperor had been merciful to Dargonus, the monster had perished in the fires that engulfed the hive during that cycle. Okay. That doesn't really sound like it was a thorough enough extermination to me, but hey. It's always filled with bloody Gene Stealers. There was a malfunction. Okay, it's one that we've seen before. Let's go back to the magnetic storm. I think I can probably penetrate it now. Alright, never mind. Two plastisteel, it's not worth the effort. All the usual noises on the bridge cease when the shadow of a gigantic void ship seemingly appear out of nowhere sails past the stained glass windows. It seems forlorn. Hull is tarnished, lumens are dead, windows are broken and shrouded. The auger crew doesn't recognize the signature of its silent engines. They only managed to shed some light on its decrepit hull and make out the faded name of the cruiser, Queen's Lament. Voxmaster's report breaks the somber silence. You've just received a Voxcast from the dead void ship. Risky, but let's go for it. Vigdis conducts a full Vox system check and reports the communications are in order, even though their eerie, unnatural silence can be heard through the Vox. Worried murmurs sweep across the bridge. The officers are certain you've encountered the void ship of the old ghost stories. The Queen's Lament has appeared countless times in all corners of the Imperium. Like a ghost, it manifested out of nowhere and just mysteriously vanished in the darkness of space, taking with it those who dared to board. Queen's Lament, you've heard that name before. This void ship was destroyed by Xenos in one of the violent battles for the Expanse over 3 millennia ago. They say its captain was a devout and vengeful man. Let's attack it. The rogue trader's flagship takes an advantageous position, ready to engage the motionless vessel. A powerful salvo interrupts from the cannons, but the missiles impotently pass right through the cruiser's weathered hull and dissolve into the darkness of space. The Queen's Lament dissipates in the darkness and with unnatural swiftness appears at the port side of the flagship, gaining speed. The cruiser rams your void ship, passing right through it, and the bridge fills with blurry visages of decomposed and disfigured people. The tormented cries of these souls drown out all thoughts. The visions of the past intertwine with those of the present. Dead eyes see your people as treacherous Xenos, attacking your crew with ghostly chainsaws and bolters, knocking the wind out of the terrified officers. The apparition dissipates into thick blue mist just as suddenly as it appeared, leaving behind only several strands of grey hair among the most impressionable crew members. Okay. Nothing happened. Probably because I didn't send anyone to board it. I bring you new information about the Xeno device you discovered during your time away. Ever since your return, the tech priests have been making every effort to comprehend the nature of the mysterious technology. And they have succeeded to an extent. After many rituals and pleas to the machine god, they awakened the Xeno artifact, but for a moment it produced a holographic copy of a planet and coordinates that match the location of Langren's belt. Perhaps you wish to see with your own eyes what this destination holds. Langren's belt. Where is that? Oh, there it is. I've been here before, yeah. This is the pit. Huh. Okay. Bit of a random event, that one. Wow, I only had a 5% chance of succeeding there. I feel like my chance of succeeding that test has been dropping quite a lot recently. I didn't do it because it was like 60%, it was like 40%, now it looks like it's 5%. Right. Let's go and do this companion quest. Two who attempted to move Urlet were attacked and died instantly. The Xenos regained awareness about 10 hours later. She explained that she had seen her home world collapsing around her and been the only one able to hold up the walls. She added that no monkey should ever touch her again without permission, and that in the future she would deal with the call of the warp on her own. Okay. Just a quick rinse through of the colonies to get anything that they've produced. Let's go and solve this mystery. For House Valancias. Governor Driveston will take care of everything. I'm sure he will. This is ridiculous, such a thing happening right in front of the rogue trader's palace. Ridiculous indeed. You are confronted by the sight of dead bodies at the entrance to the palace. The corpses have been hauled into a pile, some dressed in the uniforms of palace wardens, others are arrayed in clothing typical of the Dargonist nobility. Upon seeing you, young enforcer stands to attention and swallows noisily. His voice trembles. He says, "Your lordship, we are honoured by your presence." Bodies of the assailants are studded with many augmatics, but upon closer inspection you realise they are not merely implants. Their construction makes it clear that the deceased were not humans, but were, in fact, rare, high-functioning servitors. As far as I know, House Caprak has received such servitors from Crimson Priesthoods as gifts in the past, though this is my first time seeing one myself. These people wanted to attack. Second Lieutenant of the Palace Guard, Ilium Wet, reporting. Shortly after you arrived, we averted an assassination attempt on the rogue trader. The palace soldiers detected intruders and engaged them in combat. Where is the court chancellor? I think she's with the rest of House Wersian. Detained in the throne room, that is. Governor Driveston has gathered all of Dargonist's nobility there to pronounce a guilty verdict against House Wersian. Why is the governor not here to greet me? I do not know, your lordship. Perhaps he is. You can only find him in the throne room, where the governor intends to put House Wersian on trial.
Too hard for a simple monkey?
What does the letter say? This letter is soaked with blood. Only a portion of text is readable through the crimson blotches. Earful and discreet. Keep away from the lords and ladies. You must look like a noble to the servants and wardens. Do not engage in conversation with anyone. Your task is to avoid exposing yourself ahead of time and let the Wersians get away. while the wardens are busy guarding the rogue trader. So these guys were here to assassinate the Ursians.
Rise to the top or get left in the dust.
Where's my map gone? I thought there was a mini-map. Am I losing the plot?
Do you not struggle to carry the burden of all your years, Grey Warrior? Will your hand not eventually betray you in combat?
Youth has vigor on its side, but age has knowledge. I'm sure even a long-lived Xenos must understand the importance of experience.
Is there money to be made?
Alright. I don't think there's anything new. Let's go to the main hall. Let me through. I have an appointment with Chancellor Clementa Ursian. My apologies, my lord, but you cannot go any further. Governor Drivestom's orders. This is ridiculous. I shall complain. Write them a strongly worded letter. Move over. Let his lordship the rogue trader through. Your lordship, 'tis an honour. I regret that such unfortunate circumstances has occasioned the rogue trader's visit to the capital. Your lordship, you are here. Please, you must hear us out. The rogue trader is undoubtedly here to listen to the testimony of each and every one of us and to punish the traitors. We have known each other for many decades now, and we have had our share of disagreements, but do you really think that my flesh and blood would trample upon the very definition of honour and loyalty? We have evidence implicating them, Abelard. I'm sure that his lordship will arrive at a fair ruling. What are the charges? Disruption of logistical lines, bribery of adeptus administratum, officials, document forgery, organisation of heretical insurrections, on top of the evidently devastating economic impact this has had on your protectorate. These criminal acts have impeded the delivery of the imperial tithe, which in turn has drawn the administratum's attention. Esteemed member of the Adeptus Arbites is expected to arrive in Dargonis shortly. And before they do, we are obligated to identify and punish those responsible. Your Lordship, Count Ursian denies all charges laid against it. These last few months have indeed been trying for Dargonis, but we've done our best to remedy the situation. My family's every effort was focused on stabilizing the capital's logistics and economy. So much so that we failed to notice the web of intrigue unfolding behind our backs. Caught wind of the rumours of your disappearance, we patiently awaited news of your return, but then Dargonis was struck by a series of terrible events. The first was sabotage of logistics that hampered shipments. Then mass unrest spread across the entire planet, and minor noble houses began squabbling amongst themselves, trying to pin the blame on their rivals. Took great pains to calm them down and managed to quash the revolt, although not without some outside help. These events have also been overshadowed by the, I am ashamed to even say it aloud in front of you, your lordship, the rumours circulating among the higher houses. Some were calling for Theodora's true heir to be installed as head of your house. Conrad Voltavir. Not all of your subjects have forgotten his past efforts for the benefit of the Trade Protectorate. When the investigation was launched, the evidence led us to the Warzians. Your Lordship, I humbly beg your pardon. You see, right before your arrival, the palace guard discovered a plot to assassinate you. Fortunately, the malefactors were disposed of before they could cause you any harm. Of course I have evidence, Your Lordship. The investigation established members of the Wersian family, which is responsible for both Dargonis' fleet and its logistics, used their contacts and influence to forge a host of documents in order to undermine the planet's supply routes and economy, thus fermenting unrest among the inhabitants. Allow me to introduce my son, Cornelius. Cornelius holds a prestigious position at the Administratum Palace, and it's thanks to him that we managed to identify and trace the entire chain of forged documents. The investigation led us to the perpetrators, who admitted to acting on the orders of members of House Wersian. It was they who were intent on spreading the idea of restoring the title of rogue trader to the true heir. This young man is shrouded in the mist of grey and blue. Sickly shadows of fear are fluttering around him. No one is willing to be the first to answer. Over his many years of service, Governor Johnston has earned Theodora's trust, and he holds high office for a reason. On behalf of House Sorbuck, I support his accusations. My apologies, Your Lordship, but I wish to speak too. Of course I agree with my husband. Governor Driveston will not press charges against anyone who is not absolutely certain of the authenticity of the evidence. I think anyone here would agree that anyone who ever doubts the authority of the rogue trader should be prosecuted. I am sure, Your Lordship, that you will eradicate the scourge of heresy from your domain. Your Lordship, Governor Driveston has always faithfully served the rogue traders of House von Valancius and concerned himself with the future of your trade dynasty. As so, House Geparic thinks that the charges against Wersun are to be sound. I humbly ask you to allow me to speak in defense of my family's honor. The evidence provided by the governor is utterly false. I cannot refute it. I can say with confidence that no one from my family has ever tried to forge documents in the Adeptus Administratum, let alone undermine the economy of your capital. Sabotaging logistics, riots, conspiracy. The case appears to be flimsy. I wish to learn more before I make my final decision. I thank you for your willingness to help, Lord Captain. I am certain that charges are false and would be grateful for your help in exposing them as such. I think you should speak to everyone present, noble lords and ladies.
Keep your wits about you.
Your Lordship. Sorber stares at Urilet and revulsion flickers across his face. Delighted you have chosen to grace us with your attention. Despite his attempts to suppress his revulsion, the presence of inhumans in your retinue undoubtedly reflects his fervent desire to eliminate the enemies of humanity. Do my companions distress you, Swarback? The rogue trader is the chosen servant of the Emperor and one of humanity's best, surrounding himself with depraved Xenos who scorn the very exceptionalism of humankind. You teeter on the brink of heresy, and no privilege granted by the Emperor can blind others to that fact. The thought of existing in the same sector as Xenos is revolting, but their presence in your retinue here in the capital of the Von Valancius trade dynasty enrages me. To have Xenos sullying the streets of this planet after what we endured and under the protection of the rogue trader, no less. Certainly, I think they're guilty. Governor Drivestem possesses proof of their guilt, and they have no means by which to refute it. Even if I were to entertain the idea that the Wersians are being framed, how much longer would their house have lasted anyway if it's so ill-prepared for treachery? My advice to House Wersian would be to not appeal to the rogue trader for help, but instead to simply stop, accept their fate, and not make matters worse for themselves. Cannot remember Edmund von Valancius seeking your advice on what House Wersian should do in their situation. Pay attention, Macarius. Focus on the rogue trader's questions. House Driveston wishing to expand their clout. House Gapak, who lost their influence after the Kivagamma incident. House Swalbach, whose patriarch is too direct in his communication with the rogue trader. Anyone could have a reason to conspire against you, and equally they could have none. It's not a question of motive, but of loyalty. Each of your subjects has sworn an oath of loyalty to you, so whose sincerity do you doubt? Your unveiled hatred for me is so obvious, it is grounds enough to charge you with heresy. I am hearing this from you, the Emperor's servant, who flouts all that is sacred. A person who seems to think the laws of the Imperium are meaningless. Macarius, now is the time when you would do well to stop and not make matters worse for yourself. Swalback looks away briefly and replies to you with a curt laugh. I've always thought that Torarina too weak to participate in such risky ventures, but it seems I was wrong about her. He mad, but I doubt he's disloyal. The lords and ladies, sumptuously dressed in the colours of House Gaprak, I guess, are standing in a half circle around Tarina and her son Vincent. The bodies and faces of almost every member of the dynasty covered in large, ornate augmentics. Greetings, your lordship. May the Omnissiah grant you understanding. Abelard, it must be difficult for you to be here under these circumstances with your house standing accused of such a grave crime. My family is yet to be found guilty of anything. That verdict is for the rogue trader to reach. I would not take such a responsibility on myself and rule on their guilt, your lordship. I do think Lord Governor Driveston's accusations are worthy of consideration. Pardon my bluntness, your lordship, but I'll answer truthfully. It could be anyone. Greed, fear, and ideals can drive even the most loyal subjects to do the unthinkable. I have examined the bodies of the assailants that were killed today, all of them high-functioning servitors. Such servitors are only employed by families close to the Adeptus Mechanicus, isn't that so? It is impossible to Torina's emotions to... It is impossible to read Toriana, I guess, emotions in her heavily augmented face, but her sudden turn towards her family betrays her confusion and surprise. Perplexed whispers bounce from one family member to another. Impossible. We came here by ourselves without any servitors. We know nothing about it. Your lordship, thanks for informing us of this. You're absolutely right. My house is indeed endowed with high-functioning servitors, a blessing for those who revere the Omnissiah, but today none of our house members were accompanied by them. I found this note. What do you think? Officially, high-functioning servitors are employed by my house and my house alone. If such units were to attack the road trader, suspicion would instantly fall upon the Gapraks. I assume this is what the Wersians intended to happen, but they did not expect that the servitors would have this letter on them. But that's not what the letter says.
Always keep your eye on the price.
Your lordship, accept my most humble apologies for failing to greet you properly, and my thanks for agreeing to speak with me before you make your final decision. The charges brought by the governor are severe, but I can only assure you of this and swear on my own honours you are not guilty of the crimes that House Wersian are being accused of. Clementia, you were acting head of this family. You were supposed to take care of each and every family member, and now you're being accused of treason and collusion against the rogue trader, and the entire family is facing death. How could you let this happen? If you know of a member of your family is guilty of the crimes you're being accused of. Abelard, It is your family too, you know, and my apologies. I should not lose my composure. No member of House Warzian is involved in the conspiracy. Honor and loyalty is not something we take lightly, and we know whom we serve. The fleet is the remit of House Warzian. It is our responsibility. Logistics and supply routes are another area of our responsibility. We have no direct influence on the inner workings of the Adeptus Administratum. First large-scale deliveries were cancelled after quantities of food were miscalculated by clerks in the Administratum. Then we were faced with incorrect weather data and a meagre fuel budget. It was clear that the cause of all these problems was the calculations performed in the Administratum in one way or another, but no matter how many times we asked, we could not ever obtain clarification on the matter. Your Lordship, let us be frank, it would be foolish of me to try and orchestrate something like this, knowing how many wardens are patrolling your palace. I would not have let myself or anyone in my family get involved in such a scheme. Servitors, is that so? I've encountered servitors that were indistinguishable from normal augmented humans, but only once. They were accompanying several members of House Caprak. Who stands to gain from framing you? Anyone, really? Lady Theodora chose to grant noble status to House Wercian, but other houses which have served the expanse for millennia did not welcome the decision. It has led to some difficulties. I want to find out what's going on here and the real mastermind behind all of this. Where should I start? I'm afraid I cannot be of much help. Talk to the representatives of the other houses, eavesdrop on their retinue, perhaps you will hear something unusual.
I always keep my options open.
Maybe we should just go ahead and annoy him by kissing his wife's hand. I don't want to read this corny cheese out. Oh my god. I can make the check though. Really, your lordship? I'm so glad to hear from the rogue trader, especially today. Regina, step away from his lordship. Oh, throne preserve you, Macarius. Stop being so jealous and making a scene over nothing. Just because of a crude blockhead like you lacks the refinement and courtesy. His bile poisons the air around him wherever he goes. Once he gets something into his head, he hairs off to remove the heads of others just to prove that he is on the right.
I always have a backup plan.
And her son Vincent. Bodies and faces of almost every member of this district are large. Okay, we've done. Greetings, your lordship. Okay, we've done this.
Rise to the top, or get left in the dust.
Color the uncolored.
Keep your wits about you.
Governor Driveston is surrounded by his retinue, all dressed in expensive gowns and finery. Your lordship, thank you for giving this case your undivided attention. What do you make of this letter? I found it one of the assailants. It looks like another piece of evidence incriminating House Wersian. Perhaps they truly did intend to kill you, or at least cause a stir to help them escape custody during the confusion that followed. High-functioning servitors. Such servitors are indeed rare, and Galprax do have them in their service, but this could have been done intentionally with an eye to confusing you. Anyone with the desire and sufficient funds can hire them. Tell me more about your son. Thanks for your interest, your lordship. I am not worthy of it. Son showed you respect. Forgive him, your lordship. It's the first time he has had the honour of attracting the attention of the rogue trader. I manage the documents and records related to the economy of Dargonis. You probably know how scrupulous the workers of the Adeptus Administratum are. I'm afraid a more detailed explanation of my duties would mirror the administrative processes of the Administratum, too long and overly detailed. How do you manage to find the forged documents? When compiling reports on the last cycle's supply chain, I noticed inaccuracies and discrepancies in the figures. With the help of other clerks, I managed to find several other documents. Comprehensive data analysis has shown the discrepancies were caused by intentional tampering of the data, thus leading to some logistical problems that were practically unsolvable. Father and I managed to single out the administratum clerks responsible for tampering with the data. Following a heated interrogation, they confessed they were following the orders of someone from House Wersian. Everything was supposed to look as though they were the ones suffering losses from logistical and economic problems. But does House Wersian have access to the Adeptus Administratum? There is no conceivable way they could do all this from a place where they do not hold any power. I think the right amount of money can open any door. Cornelius, what is the true reason for your nervousness? This is the first time I've spoken face to face with the rogue trader. I'm afraid of saying something wrong or forgetting something important. Do you wish to tell the Lord Captain anything else? Forgive me, your lordship. I can't do it anymore. The lie has gone too far and I can no longer control it. The truth is that all the logistical problems were caused by a single error in the numbers. My mistake. What? When I discovered my mistake, it was almost impossible to restore the supply lines, and then I was approached by someone who said they were a friend. They did not give me their name and I never saw their face, but they promised to fix the problem. All that to do was pretend that the Wersians were responsible for the mistake, and as for the rest of the evidence, they promised to arrange it all, and... What have you done? How could you, your lordship? This is my fault. I trusted my son and failed you in doing so. I beg you, have mercy. But you called my family's honour into question, Urban. Nevertheless, I harbour no desire to kick a man when he is down. Lord Captain, the confession you have obtained means that House Wersian can now be cleared of all charges. Who is this friend that approached you, Cornelius? He approached you in the Lilac sector. Wow, there's a dated reference. By letter. I received a letter out of the blue one day. It was unsigned. The person writing already knew about my erroneous calculations. They offered to help me cover up my misdeed. In return, they would name the Wersians as the one who sabotaged the supply lines. All I had to do was gather together some documents and reports that were listed in one of the letters and keep my mouth shut. Your son has found the courage to admit his mistake. I will try and find some compassion for him in my heart. Why not? Thank you, your lordship. And as for your position, I think you'll be reassigned to a role requiring less responsibility. Well, it's solved now, so why would you ask this? The charges brought by Governor Drysdale were fabricated. House Wersian had nothing to do with the orchestration of the riots or the plot targeting the rogue trader, and yet this matter is far from concluded. House Throwback guilty. The head of your family has never tried to hide his attitude towards me. That is more than enough to convict him. I will not go against your despicable verdict, and I will accept it. House Throwback has never given you any reason to doubt our loyalty, and thus I accept death with pride, for there is more honor than that in serving the likes of you. Why are we condemning House Swarback? We already found out what the issue was. That's weird. Is that a bug? This feels like a bug. I am so confused. Wasn't it the governor's son that was the problem? The Swarlbacks, one of the first families to come to the Expanse. They have served the Emperor for hundreds of years and never shown any signs of disloyalty, at least none recorded in any official sources. It's quite regrettable that their noble line has ended in such a matter. House Worthian saved, although it was close to being wiped out as a result of scheming without imprudence within. You must be prepared for the next time something like this happens. You need to be prepared for it, and I want to believe they'll be able to take care of themselves. Time to reflect upon what happened and the role I played in it. That's weird, though. I don't understand what happened here, and I'm going to do a little bit of Googling and find out whether that was a bug or what. We already found out that a mistake made by the governor's son is what caused the issue. So why did House Swarback suddenly get proclaimed the guilty party? That's kind of weird. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.